November 11th, 1918, World War I ends, and the Big Four, Britain, France, Italy, and the United States, gather at the Paris Peace Conference. The Central Powers, including Germany, Austria-Hungary, Bulgaria, and the Ottoman Empire, are not invited but have to accept the terms of the Treaty of Versailles. It demands that Germany accept full blame for the war, as well as pay for war damages by giving up all foreign territory. The Ottoman Empire must accept the Treaty of Sèvres and give control to the Allies. To gain allies during the war, Great Britain made deals with both Italy and Greece for territory in the Ottoman Empire after the war. The new Soviet Russia says, "Look at these capitalist pigs. They promise the same place to two countries." Italy says, "Go to hell, Britain. I am done with your BS," and starts to seize its reward. Italy is no longer part of the pact, so Great Britain gets what it really wants. It gives Eleftherios Venizelos what he has always wanted: control over Greek ethnic regions in the Ottoman Empire. On May 15, 1919, with Allied support at first, Greece occupies Smyrna, where there are more Greeks and Armenians than there are Turks. Meanwhile, Italy, France, and Russia supply the Turks with weapons to oust the Greeks. Turkish nationalists, the Young Turks, shout, "The hell with the treaty." The military rebels and the commander Mustafa Kemal rise to power throughout Turkey. Kemal and his army begin seizing territory and terrorizing Greek and Armenian villagers, while the Greek army fights without Allied support. They say, "Turkey for the Turks. Make your deals with us if you want our oil." Throughout Turkey, Greek and Armenian people flee their villages and run to Smyrna, where they believe the Allies will protect them. 21 warships sit in the harbor at Smyrna. But Venizelos has lost the election in Greece, and as soon as the Greek army starts losing, Britain drops its support and begins making deals with Kemal. The United States, France, and Italy also make deals with Kemal. Greece is abandoned, and the army retreats to Smyrna. They burn Turkish villages in the retreat, so Kemal's army cannot take advantage of supplies. The Greek army sails home and leaves all the Greek citizens behind. On September 9th, 1922, the Turkish cavalry rides into Smyrna and announces, "You have nothing to fear." The next day, a French patrol tries to get the Greek Orthodox Archbishop Chrysostomos to come to safety in the French consulate, but he refuses to leave his flock. The Archbishop's rival, Turkish General Nureddin, hands Chrysostomos over to an excited crowd and says, "Do with him what you please. If he has done good to you, do good to him. If he has done harm to you, do harm to him." They cut off his ears, his nose, and gouge his eyes out. Finally, someone shoots him. The message is clear. A new regime controls Turkey and Smyrna, and the Turkish people are free to give in to their hatred. Tens of thousands of Greek and Armenian refugees fill the quay at the Smyrna harbor. The Turkish army seizes all males of military age to work them and starve them to death, and then to march them into the desert to die. Turkish soldiers carry young women and girls away to rape and beat them in the cemetery of St. Fotini Cathedral. On the quay, women give birth and die nursing their babies. Mothers hold dead babies, speak to them, and will not let them go. Each day, thousands of new refugees fill the quay. No bathrooms, no food, no water, and nowhere to go. 21 Allied warships sit in the bay and watch. Kemal tells them if they help the Christians, then he will not help them get what they want from the new government. Turkish citizens and soldiers began looting the Armenian neighborhood and killing Armenians. Turks are free to exercise their animosity toward the Armenians and take whatever they want. For 4 days, the looting and killing continues. Bodies fill the streets. The stench of death fills the air. Fire breaks out in the Armenian quarter. A south wind blows the fire away from the Turkish quarter and into the Greek quarter. The conflagration surrounds the quay, and refugees jump into the sea and swim to Allied ships. But the navies are under orders to help only their own nationality. Allied warships only protect their own citizens and their own businesses and property. Who gives the order not to help? American High Commissioner in Turkey, Admiral Mark Bristol, despises Greeks and Armenians and withholds permission for American ships to help the refugees. He orders them to do nothing that could jeopardize profit with the new Turkish government. To Bristol, the Greeks are getting what they deserve. Safe at his parties and business deals in Constantinople, Bristol tells Washington the Turks are putting out fires and have everything under control. He is not there. He does not tell Washington that thousands of refugees are swimming to Allied ships where they are killed in the propellers, where they are stabbed with bayonets, and their hands are cut off as they try to climb aboard. Where Turkish soldiers with machine guns block refugees from escaping the fire, where horses buck to throw the flaming bundles off their backs, where all the Allied warships remain neutral to make Kemal happy. Bristol does not tell the story of the Tokimaru, the Japanese commercial ship that throws its cargo overboard to save hundreds of refugees. Bristol does not tell the story of American naval bands playing loud music to drown out the cries of refugees. I have only told you the stories of Kemal, of Venizelos, of the prime ministers of Great Britain and France, of Italy, of American President Warren G. Harding's thirst for oil, of Nureddin's revenge on Chrysostomos, and of an American admiral who had full control over an American response to the genocide. In Turkey, their stories are told differently than I have told them. Their stories eclipse the stories of the 300,000 refugees fleeing fire, rape, starvation, and death marches. In this history, I must take the pages of Bristol and Kemal and glue them right on top of the pages that would tell the story of each refugee, of the abandoned Greek soldiers, and of the citizens that the Greek government left standing on the quay between the fire and the sea. The stories of governments survive, but the stories of mothers, fathers, sons, and daughters drown. The names of a few are remembered. The names of many lie in mass graves and at the bottom of the sea. No one has forgotten the name of Agamemnon, and the fire of hatred burned for 3,172 years. Like Smyrna, Troy was a great city. Why else would I have wanted it? But Smyrna was a greater city because the Greeks, Armenians, Jews, and Turks who lived there together were thriving together. Those citizens were not soldiers, and they trusted their walls to keep them safe. Priam made the mistake of trusting a wall built by a king within a kingdom. Smyrna made the mistake of trusting a wall of warships built by allies who were easily converted. God is Muslim when he is in Turkey, is Christian by the time he gets to Greece. Gods become very ethnocentric every place they go. Kemal and I both knew not to deny our mongrels of the meat they could steal from the table. Kemal was as great and noble a military leader as I was. Take that how you will. Homer was from Smyrna, and he portrayed me as a madman. If you want to know how I got that way, talk to Euripides. He can tell you about the bravest person I ever knew. I too lost a child in my war. But I will tell you about the bravest man in Smyrna. In 1922, Americans aren't supposed to drink. But this man tells his wife, Jesus drank wine, why can't I? The military leaders, politicians, and businessmen are making deals. Why shouldn't he? He believes his God has a purpose for him, and he survives a terrible sickness, but loses half his breathing and suffers spinal deformity. Nevertheless, he goes to Smyrna as a missionary for the YMCA. As Smyrna burns, Asa Jennings carries women and orphans on his hunched back into his house. He rents another house to hide refugees. He stands up to Kemal. He stands up to the Greek, American, and British governments. The 21 ships in the bay are only accepting their own nationality. American Consul George Horton is writing documents for refugees to escape, and he will not come to safety on the ship. He has to be carried out by sailors as the American consulate catches fire. The bay fills with the bodies of refugees. Turkish boys swim out to the bodies and cut off ears and fingers to take jewelry. Turks reel in bodies to take coins and gold teeth. Meanwhile, Admiral Bristol is playing tennis in Constantinople and gives orders not to save anyone who isn't American. Jennings, however, goes out in an American boat to find ships for refugees. He sails to a French ship and asks for help. The French say no and leave. Jennings goes to an Italian boat and has to bribe the captain to save 2,000 refugees. Jennings sails to Greek Admiral Frango, who says no, he is saving his ships for a coup in Greece and cannot waste them on refugees. Jennings sails to another Greek boat near Mytilene and meets the ship's captain, Ioannis Theophanides. This captain will help. He knows all the ports, and they gather commercial boats to come for the refugees. Jennings and Theophanides send a coded radio message to the Greek Prime Minister for help. Jennings lies about Bristol's support and says Americans will protect Greek merchant boats, but they cannot fly the Greek flag. The Greek response is that it is too early in the morning to conduct government business and the Prime Minister is asleep. Jennings and Theophanides reply that if the Greek government does not act immediately, they will send the message out into the entire world, uncoded, and everyone will find out that Greece is doing nothing to save 300,000 Greeks. This will embarrass the government. Greece says the cabinet will meet. Jennings and Theophanides add that they want ships from Piraeus too. Greece asks whether America will help. Jennings vows support from the American president of Committee Mytilene. He is referring to himself. The Greek government orders Admiral Frangos to hand over his ships to the missionary. The government seizes all ships in Piraeus and Mytilene and sends them to Jennings. Then, like Noah with a navy of arks, the missionary raises an American flag and stands at the helm of the lead boat, even though he doesn't know how to sail. By now, Bristol has lost control of the messages getting to the government. Admiral Powell and Admiral Hepburn enter the picture. Powell walks through the burned city, through a cemetery with 10,000 refugees, sees dogs eating dead bodies, and negotiates with the Turkish governor, who agrees to a deadline for evacuation. Except no men of military age, 17 to 45, will be allowed to leave. They become prisoners and are deported. In this case, deportation does not mean getting kicked out of a country. No, it means being sentenced to death deep inside the country's desert. But 300,000 elderly, women, and children will be rescued. A year later, Greece and Turkey agree to a mandatory population exchange based on religion. All Greek Orthodox Greeks in Turkey must immigrate to Greece, and all Muslim Turks in Greece must immigrate to Turkey. Greece opens her loving arms to her 1,125,000 descendants who must rise from the ashes of Smyrna and blend into the family.